I was brought up in a family where international politics were endlessly discussed. I knew absolutely nothing about the Irish Civil War until I was 17 years of age for a very good reason. And the reason was that my mother was an inveterate Fianna Fáiler from Clare, and my father had Michael Collins' memorabilia in the bottom drawer in the bookcase. So we were never allowed ever refer to the Civil War, and my parents went and voted in every elections, and one of them voted FF and the other voted FG. I never knew this until relatively recently, because it was just never discussed. I was in UCD before I actually realised that there was a civil war in Ireland. The international aspects of it, of course, were different. And I was brought up to remember the Hungarian Revolution and the refugees coming to Ireland on their way to Canada, because Ireland was a theocratic dump at the time. I also remember the fights for civil liberties and civil rights right across the world. I went to every match in Lansdowne Road since 1961, except the boycott of the two Springboks matches, and the second one of which I went on the demonstration, because my family supported Martin Luther King, my family supported John F. Kennedy, my party supported the ANC and Nelson Mandela. And I remember my first political act as a student walking down Grafton Street shouting, "We want Fianna Fáil out," because of the levels of corruption that were transparent in the late 1960s in relation to Fianna Fáil. And I supported Liam Cosgrave's coalition with Brendan Corish, and I supported Garrett Fitzgerald and Dick Spring. And I still support Garrett Fitzgerald and Dick Spring, because I believe that this country had to be saved from the depredations of repeated Fianna Fáil governments that were massively incompetent, and in my lifetime have brought economic ruin 3 times to this country. I believe that we should have open government, freedom of information, and I think the British Secret Service, the British Civil Service secrecy, which we inherited in 1922, has done huge damage to this country. I also believe that all the professions, as George Bernard Shaw colourfully put it, are a conspiracy against the public, and that professional fees should be published, that I think that incomes in general should be published, so that we can put pressure on people not to rip off the whole of society, so that you don't have a massive difference between the rich and poor, which in the last Fianna Fáil government extended, and caused huge resentment. And societies are much more coherent, much happier, when the gap between rich and poor is small. That's not my opinion, that's an international fact. And I support decency in society and respect. I do not like racism, and I'm totally opposed to it. I do not like intolerance of the poor. And I think that the state should be about trying to look after people who cannot look after themselves. John Bruton memorably said that Fine Gael should stand for the competent. And I think that the competent people in countries carry everybody else at the end of the day. And we as a society, and I believe there is such a thing as a society, and that Margaret Thatcher was wholly wrong in denying this, that we as a society have got another opportunity in this national cataclysm that we're currently in to go forward together and in a community and support ourselves and be honest, so that we can get ourselves out of this hole. My other passion in life is medicine. I had the great privilege of qualifying in medicine in UCD in 1974 and to being a consultant since 1982. I work in a hospital where it is astonishing the quality of medical care provided by the medical side of the hospital, and the gagging clauses and all the rest that go into the HSE and the hospital I fight on the beaches. I believe passionately that we should be open, honest and transparent in all our dealings, and that it is completely unacceptable to have grannies on trolleys and to misuse old people and the infirm and the sick in the way that we have it. I've written a book on the subject which was published in 2003. I've over 100 publications in the international medical literature, and I personally have been hugely privileged, and as a result of that privilege I feel that I have a duty to my country, which has been so good to me, to give something back. You know, John Giles talks about giving things back into football. I'm trying to give back to my country some of the privileges that were handed to me by my own people in my own country. And that is the reason that I stand in politics. That is the reason I stand in Dublin Northwest, and I will not go away, because I will fight and fight again for the rights of ordinary people to a decent life in their own country. And I abhor the idea that Brian Lenihan's father once said, that we're a small island and we can't employ everybody. Well, we disproved that once, and the Fine Gael government is going to set about setting up a programme to disprove it yet again.